This is the Volvo EX90, Volvo's flagship electric vehicle and winner of the World Luxury Car of the Year award in 2025. Let's take a look around. It has a twin performance all-wheel drive powertrain, 380 kilowatts of power, 910 Newton meters of torque, which takes it from 0 to 100 in 4.9 seconds. The Volvo EX90 has one of the biggest EV batteries. At 111 kilowatt hours, Volvo claims that the WLTP distance is 614 kilometers for combined driving or up to 817 kilometers for city driving alone. In terms of charging speeds, the EX90 has 11 kilowatt AC charging, but up to 250 kilowatts of DC charging. One of the most distinctive features of the EX90 is the integrated LiDAR system that sits atop of the windscreen. LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging, and it's Volvo's system for being ready for full autonomous driving. The hardware is there, and in a future software upgrade and pending regulatory approvals in the markets, this is a vehicle that will be capable of autonomous driving and self-driving in the future. The Volvo EX90 comes with some of the largest spec wheels on any SUV, 265/40 22-inch wheels that are specifically rated for the loads of a heavy electric vehicle's battery. As you would expect from Volvo, plenty of room under the bonnet in what's called the frunk for additional storage of anything that you might need, as well as massive storage in the back. Under the floor, there's plenty of additional space for cables and mobility kits and first aid kits. But if you start to open up the back seats, you've got a cavernous storage area available to you in the EX90. As with the EX30, the EX90 Ultra Spec also has an amazing panoramic sunroof with infrared and thermal filtering, allowing for amazing light to filter into the cabin, but not any heat, which is one of the most unique features of the EX range in the Volvo lineup. So yesterday we did a 507 kilometer road trip to Wolmeranstad and back. And if you'd like to catch a video overview and story about that, you can click on this card that is going to appear in the top right now. But the data I can share with that trip is that in 507 kilometers, we averaged 21 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is for a 2.7 ton car, very, very efficient. As you would expect with any of the EX models in the Volvo electric range, the autonomous driving systems and the ADAS systems are excellent. It has an intelligent cruise control system called Pilot Assist with a simple knockdown of the driving mode lever. You put the car into Pilot Assist. It lights up the lanes left and right of which lanes it's tracking. The LiDAR system is super accurate in identifying the traffic around you, be it small cars, large cars, trucks, bikes, or even pedestrians being picked up by the LiDAR system. The EX90 offers an excellent 360-degree camera system, supported by dedicated cameras that are underneath the rearview mirrors on either side, one in the front, one in the back, and working with the LiDAR system cameras as well, you get an excellent all-around image around the vehicle. As you would expect of a vehicle of this size, the space inside is absolutely premium. Legroom for the backseat passengers, legroom for the front passengers, and even legroom for the third row of passengers is ample. Another distinctive feature of the EX90 is its incredible sound system. 29 speakers integrated into the cabin, Bowers & Wilkins sound experience, and a Dolby Atmos certified theater inside the vehicle. I will show you a demo and give the best impression of that sound that I can, but you need to experience it to believe it. The EX90 has one of the most silent interior cabins in its class, with specific acoustic foam put into certain parts of the vehicle in the C-pillars and in the doors. It's an absolutely serene experience inside the vehicle. Even difficult to hear vehicles passing you, it is that well insulated. And just as good as the inside soundproofing is, the exterior noise is also exceptionally quiet. I'm sitting inside the Volvo EX90 and I'm about to do a very interesting range anxiety test. Now, range anxiety is a term that often comes up in the worlds of EVs, and the fear perhaps of what's called running out of charge and not getting to your destination. Well, right now I'm sitting in a situation where I've got a 23-kilometer drive to make down the N1, but I only have 36 kilometers left, and I have an 8% battery state of charge as it stands now. Now, what that means is I'm pretty much going to arrive at my destination, which is going to be the Mall of Africa 200 kilowatt DC charger with maybe 10 kilometers left, if that. But you have to be confident in knowing that the vehicle you're driving, the readings that you're getting on your vehicle are accurate enough for you to make a trip like this confidently. There are a couple of tricks that I can use. I can obviously use one pedal drive. I'm going to be driving at a very slow average speed, and the slower you go, the better it is for consumption. But the Volvo EX90 also has a range optimizer option, which basically shuts down a lot of the electrical consumers in the vehicle, things like air conditioning and others, to give you the best range and the maximum range. So I'm not going to use it unless I really have to. I don't think I'm going to need to use it, but I will depart now, and let's see if I can get to that 200 kilowatt charger with enough range left. Let's go. So if you looked at the map there, it's basically projecting a state of charge on arrival of 2%. Now, in my experience, that's normally the most conservative estimate that the vehicle will make. Normally, by the time you get to your destination, you will find that it's actually increased. And the main reason for that is because of the regenerative braking that happens along the way. You're actually able to reclaim some additional range when you do drive. So at 2%, as long as it's above zero and not showing negative, I should be fine to get there. So far, so good. 27 kilometers left. Battery's now down to 6%. And the projected state of charge when we get to the Mall of Africa is at 3%. So when you've been driving EVs for a while, one thing you can learn to trust is the data that the EV provides to you in terms of remaining range, consumption, expected distance, and state of charge of the battery. You can be quite confident that what you see is what you get. There's no guesswork involved. There's no analog systems involved in guessing how many liters are left or estimated range. This is pretty much an exact real-time reading of the range that remains. Particularly adaptive to your driving style, and particularly adaptive to what kind of power consumption you're running in the car. So if you take off your air conditioning, for example, you'll see an immediate improvement in the range expected. So that's one thing you get to learn pretty quickly with an EV, is that you can trust the data that's been presented to you. My battery situation has just changed to 4%. It's popped up with a notification saying very low range. Please charge the car as soon as possible. 18 kilometers left in terms of range, but I've only got 5 kilometers to get to the charging station. One thing you can know about an EV is that there's also a reserve buffer in the percentage of the actual battery, meaning that even if you hit 0%, there is a small amount of distance, sometimes up to 50 kilometers I've seen, that is still possible in a very slow driving speed. Okay. We've just pulled into the DC charge station here at the Mall of Africa. It's the Rubicon 200 kilowatt, and fortunately made it here with 22 kilometers to spare and a battery state of charge of 4%. So when we started this trip, it was projecting to land here 2%, but we've gained 2 more percent. So as expected, the regeneration worked well on that trip. What's also good is that because I've programmed the Rubicon charge station as the destination in the vehicle, what the Volvo has done is already preconditioned this battery to be able to accept a fast charge. So I'm going to plug it in now, and my expectation is that we should get up to 200 kilowatts, the maximum that the charge station can provide as we recharge the EX90. Okay, so we're up to 11%, and it's stabilized at 150 kilowatts, 151 kilowatts now. Again, hoping that we might see this go up to 200 kilowatts, but maybe it's a factor of the car and the charge station just managing the initial charge, because we started quite low in terms of the percentage on the battery. We've reached 31% charge status, and I've noticed that the charging speed has just been creeping up over the 150 mark. We're at 154 kilowatts, and I've set the target state of charge to 80%. We're at 41% now, and the power continues to increase up to 157 now, so it's slowly just starting to pick up. I've been at the Mall of Africa Rubicon charge station now for about 20 minutes. There's about 10 minutes left of charge to get to 80%. I'm on 68% at the moment, and the charge station has actually been dialing itself down to about 125 kilowatts now. I've just confirmed actually that there's a rectifier issue in this charge station, which is not rendering it inoperable, but it is affecting the charge station reaching its maximum, which is 200 kilowatts. That's why we weren't able to get more than about 155 to 158 kilowatts in the peak part of the charge session. Okay, the charging session is now complete. It's been 38 minutes. We've added 86 kilowatt hours. That's given us another 370 kilometers of range. So all done quite well, and let's get going from here. Okay, so the main infotainment unit is always orientated in portrait mode. It doesn't move, it's fixed like the EX30, but plenty of functionality, very well integrated with Google services and Android Automotive. The bottom part of the display is always visible. You always have access to hazard lights, you always have access to your vehicle settings and your air conditioning control, your app screen, as well as always getting to a home button. Clicking on the home button actually gives you full screen if you want that, just to minimize any other distraction. But if I go through the menu for a quick view, your main vehicle screen in terms of shortcuts, you've got shortcuts to lights, to adjusting your rear view mirrors, to opening the boot or the trunk, changing your rain sensitivity, as well as also controlling your glove box. Aircon controls, so you hit your aircon there. You can set it into off, manual or auto. This is basically adjusting your fan speed. Timers is also good because you can actually set a timer with the vehicles. If you park the vehicle in the sun for a period of time, you can leave the aircon running for a certain period of time, which is nice, meaning you get back into the car and the aircon has actually kept the car cool. That's up until a certain battery level, very much like the EX30 does it. If you jump into settings, very much like the EX30, you've got a 3x3 grid. You go into your driving screen, you can see a number of options for pilot assists. You see your driving dynamics in terms of setting your one pedal drive on or off. You can also change your steering wheel feel as well as your suspension feel, or you can put it into an off-road mode, give you better traction on loose dirt. Safety assistance, access to your lane keeping aids or your distraction alert. Distraction alert again is the infrared. You can see it down there. That's always going to be monitoring for driver fatigue. So that's actually not as intrusive, I've found, as the EX30, but nevertheless you do have the control for that. Your main controls, lights and displays, interior brightness, locking systems, mirrors and wipers, steering wheel, and a few others. So basic control here for car modes. You can also power the car down, because remember with the key fob here, you're always on in terms of getting into the vehicle, but if you need to switch it off for whatever reason, you can actually power it off through a software button. Sound systems, this is really where you set up your sort of theater modes or your stage modes, changing the type of concert hall and so on that you want, and I will do a sound demo shortly as well. Connectivity, basically Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Charging modes, very well configurable, so you can configure it to charge up to 100% for a long trip, or 90% for your daily drive, or a custom percentage up to 50% as you need to do that. You can set schedules. You can also maintain a certain battery level. You can change your amp limit, which is important in terms of if you want to be tracking certain charging speeds like for solar. And then this is interesting, your plug and charge. So plug and charge is a future option for South Africa, but in Europe, you can basically connect what's called your plug and charge ID to a service provider, which is already pre-configured with your payment details. So that means you plug your cable in and the car automatically starts charging and automatically debits your account without any need for an RFID scan or any authentication at the charger. So in future, we might get that in South Africa. On the status screen, you'll always get a view of any faults appearing or any issues you need to be aware of. Interesting is that the tire pressure doesn't give you live or real-time readings of tire pressures in the individual wheels. You do need to update a reference tire pressure in there to get that. And then you've got a view of your key tag, and you can see right there that it's actually charging the key tag on the wireless charger. Just lastly, look at your app screen. So you've got access to a Google App Store if you want to go and download, but you have other applications here that are installed. You can get more apps through the App Store at the bottom. I've installed a couple of extra ones in here, but you have your typical apps that you might want to use while you're charging, or YouTube, Spotify, TuneIn, and so on are all available. And the driver's screen is very, very focused on driving only. So on the right-hand side, you'll always get your remaining range and the battery percentage and your odometer. You'll also get a view of what gear you're in. So if I put it into drive, you'll see here that you've got a couple of options for your screen. This is the main screen that you will get a view of when you're driving. When the LiDAR is active, you'll see other vehicles appear around you, and this is where you'll see the autonomous driving actually happening. But if on the steering wheel I can actually cycle through this, you can get a more calm mode with just the speedometer in the middle. But if you want to, you can also have an integrated view of the map directly on the driver's screen, which allows you to use your infotainment unit for other purposes while you have navigation on the screen, which is quite useful. Now, one of the most impressive features of the EX90, and I think is the differentiating feature in its class, is the sound system. This has a 29 speaker system. In fact, if you look around the vehicle, you can actually see there are speakers integrated in all the arches. There's actually speakers integrated into the headrests of the driver's seat and the passenger seat. And all around the vehicle, you've got subwoofers and tweeters. What you also have is a central tweeter, which is more of a design feature of the EX90, which sits right in the center console and stands out amongst all the other speakers. So what I'm going to do now is run the Bowers & Wilkins default sound demo app, just to give you a sense of what the sound is like. Hopefully we can pick up some of the surround effects, but trust me, if you're in this vehicle, it's like you're in a movie theater. So here goes.